Hi, everybody. It's Dominic from the MS Guide. Thanks for joining me again. I love listening to a few separate political podcasts, and they always talk about having an emergency podcast when some news breaks. So I've decided that we're going to do an emergency podcast today, and I'm joined again by Jason. How are you doing, Jason?
Hello. Yeah, very well, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, rushing around for the emergency podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like there should be like alarm bells clanging and red lights and sirens. And anyway, just very quickly, but sorry, excuse me, everyone. Before we get going, I just wanted to say thank you to my Patreon supporters. We are a community. That's the only way I can get help funding this podcast. So anybody who does see their way to helping me out on Patreon, I'm extremely grateful. I'll put all the links in the description. But enough of the promotion stuff. Jason, tell me, why are we here?
So last night I was cooking dinner, and I have ITV News on, like I do every evening. And my wife said, they're talking about MS on ITV News. And, that's my ears got excited. And yeah, there was a report on ITV News about some interesting stem cell therapy, if you can call it that, at the University of Cambridge. So it's in very initial stages, and I'm sure you'll explain it better than what I will, when you get to it. But it looks like it involves injecting stem cells from donors into a patient's brain, and the idea is that it can stop or halt progression. Now, it's for people with primary progressive MS, which is massively important because there's not a great deal of options out there for people with primary progressive MS. But as we mentioned in our chat over WhatsApp, it's very much in the initial stages, and it looks like quite a small cohort in terms of people going through the trial at the moment.
I'm going to interrupt you there, Jason.
Yeah,
and
sure.
If everyone can imagine me donning my cynic's cap here. So, not that it doesn't work, but I spoke to somebody I know who's a health reporter for a Fleet Street publication. And I said to them, why aren't you covering this? And they said that they didn't feel that television, ITV in this case, and if you're listening from another country, ITV is one of our big television stations. And we do have more than 4 these days, by the way, just for anybody who is wondering. The UK does have more than 4 television stations. We only had 4 when I was growing up, but that just shows my age. Anyway, I started digging into this, got the paper. I found the preprint, which is the same as the paper. It was put up beforehand. And guess where it isn't happening? It's not happening in Cambridge. It is an Italian study. The Cambridge people are collaborating. So it's unfair to knock them out of it, but they are just some of the collaborators. But this was over a couple of years in Italy, in one center. All the data was being analyzed at a neurology center in Switzerland because they obviously had the capability. I don't profess to be an expert in this, but you know there's more than one kind of stem cell, don't you?
I'm not going to answer questions.
I'm not trying to trip you up, Jason. But it's okay. So if we have,
it would appear so.
If we have stem cells,
I would imagine so. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's worth saying, if you were to go and have stem cells for your MS, in, should we say, the traditional way, and it's called HSCT, but actually it's AHSCT because it goes late in the day. The cat's got my tongue, but A is for autologous, which means your own stem cells. These are not your own stem cells. So there is, it turns out it's pretty risk-free by the sounds of things, but they're never sure. So if you think about if I get a heart transplant from somebody else, I then spend my life on anti-rejection drugs. And people who, I think it's, can't remember the name of it. Again, it's late. But if you get stem cells from someone else, your body is saying, they ain't mine. And so you need to suppress the reactions to them. So which is why the stem cells for MS, when they're your own, work so well. Because they're yours. You're not having to sort of fight the foreign stem cells. But these were actually recovered, I believe, from the umbilical cord of a child that didn't go to term. so we could get deep into the ethics of that. And they were injected into the brains, I think it was a total of 18 patients over 2 years. And as you said, you've got to have pretty advanced MS. And my cynic cap says, well, these are the people that are far further down the line than you and me. And whereas I would take risks now, people are considered in trial terms to be more risk accepting, less risk averse, if their disease has really progressed. And the issue, I suppose, is it's a very small amount. There was some doctor quoted immediately saying, well, it's too soon to tell, it's too small a sample, etc. I mean, what they can say is that it didn't cause problems. So you still have to have surgery. You have to go into surgery. And again, this is me, the layman. I'm guessing they bore a hole in your skull somewhere and use various guidance techniques to squirt them, shall we say, onto the right parts. Again, the science is far past me. But I guess, Jason, when you said this to me, my first reaction was, I don't want people to get their hopes up for now. You cannot make an omelet without breaking eggs, and you've got to do research. But anybody who's sitting there thinking, I'll have me some of that, that's just not going to be a case now. Because if you turn up a neurologist and ask for the stem cells injected into your brain, you're going to get funny look. Well, that's presuming you can see your neurologist easily. But, so I think everybody needs to understand that this is reporting of very cool research. It's cutting edge. It's the first try. Maybe one day, Jason, in 50 years' time, get an MS diagnosis and they go, all right, lie down, make yourself comfortable. We're going to do this. And that might be it. You don't know. But for today, no. It's interesting to know about the research, but it's not a now thing for 99.999% of us.
Yeah.
Have I burst you up?
No, because I was not as skeptical as you, because that's not possible. But
thank you.
I'm joking.
I am not skeptical. I think it's completely honest and valid research, Jason. The second it gets into mainstream reporting and it makes it onto the evening news and they have to do a short segment and they can't cover it in any depth and it's got to be, ta-da, look at this amazing stuff. Anyway, on to the weather. It rarely gets, shall we say, the care it deserves. I mean, it looks Cambridge. And this has been going on since 2018 and Cambridge is a collaborator. But it's not happening at Cambridge. It's happening in an Italian hospital.
Well, to be fair, on the news report, they did mention the Italian doctors and researchers' involvement as well, but it was packaged in Cambridge University in terms of how it was reported, if my memory serves correct. But
I think, and if you go, and I'll put the web address at the bottom, but there's I found a YouTube video on a Cambridge University website saying an international team has shown that the injection of a type of stem cell into the brains of patients living with progressive multiple sclerosis is safe, well tolerated, and has a long-lasting effect that appears, by the way, that word's crucial, appears to protect the brain from further damage. It's not saying it doesn't, but it's saying that can't be shown right now. So it appears that it might do that.
I think we're only looking at 1 or 2 years so far, right, in terms of the trial.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not trying to expression. I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I just don't want anybody to go, yay! You see. I mean, you sent this to me, and the first thing I did was I started Googling around it just to find out a little more detail.
Yeah, well, the reason why I sent it to you is because it's something that I haven't heard of yet, and I thought that I would, because I'm not as versed as you in the MS research, but I'm quite versed in it, and I thought that I would at least know something have heard about it, but hadn't seen it before. So that's why I sent it your way, because it was But also, I think positive thing out of it is they were talking about primary progressive MS in the mainstream media, and normally just to take the conversation in a different place, when people talk about MS, it's often forgotten that there are different MS, different types of MS out there, and everybody goes through a different struggle. And I think it's good that primary progressive MS has got some attention in this respect.
And at this point, Jason, this is where a friend of mine, Professor Klaus Schmier at Barts, is running a trial called Chariot. And one of the issues is people don't seem to believe that it's actually for them. It is for people that they're not fussy or use secondary or primary. The whole trial is looking at people between EDSS 6.5 and 8.5. There's no upper age limit, which is rare for a trial. And it's the whole point of the trial is to try and restore hand function. Because if you think about it, if you can use even one hand, you are not entirely reliant. If both of your hands are sort of clenched up and you can't use them, you need somebody to do everything from make your toast, to wipe your bum, to brush your teeth. It's just everything. So if this trial, they're using a drug called cladribine, can help you preserve your hand function. Again, there's no guarantee. It's the theory and the speculation that this could be done. But you're right. It's the people who they're generally just passed over. It's like, you've got progressive MS. Tough luck. Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
The ship has sailed. It's too late. So you're right. I was looking at the Cambridge thing. It's Professor Stefan Pluchino, who, it's a very Italian-sounding name. He's a professor at Cambridge, and he's the lead on the study. But you're right. When you get into it, it's all discussed as an Italian study. So, and the paper that I was looking at that they published, it's called a preprint paper, and theirs is now published. But I've just seen the preprint, and it's fetal allogenic intra cerebroventricular neurostem cell transplantation in people with secondary progressive MS, a phase 1 dose escalation trial. So with all the patients, they tried 4 different lots. So people were randomized. And so you're looking at a lower dose for the bottom couple of people up to a much higher dose for the top few people. So it's, again, amazing research, injecting stem cells into your brain. I don't know if anybody's ever watched Star Trek, and I'm not a Trekkie, but it's just the whole, you've been shot. Zzz, there you go. It's all good, Oh, you've got this. Zzz, the bone's healed, So one day we're going to get that, but it's really important. It's the second thing I've seen for progressive like this. The other thing, remyelination,
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's myelin, the coating of the nerve, but also there's nerve regrowth. Because if you've got very advanced MS, like some of these people, my friend Mark, who's taking part in the Chariot trial, once a nerve is gone, it's gone. You can make myelin again, but there's nothing to put it on. It's like building a house on no foundations. You can just keep building. It's just going to keep sinking into the ground and not working. So it's important, I think, to highlight this, because it's for the people that are less able than the likes of you and me. I mean, can I ask you a question? I'm always curious, how do you see this panning out for you? So, MS isn't a sort of here today, gone tomorrow thing. I have MS, I'm 54. You have MS, you're 36. And you're likely to die with it, frankly, as am I.
Yeah, I mean, but die with it, but I don't think I'll die because of it.
Yeah, not from it, with it. Yeah.
I think the outlook for me is reasonably quite good. I think, in the sense, I think all I need to do really is monitor my IgG levels in my blood, basically, to make sure.
IgG. Now I've forgotten what IgG is.
I'm not going to try and pronounce the word.
Gamma globulin.
Yes, there you go. See.
Yeah, but I don't know what the I is. Go on, you started it. You tell me.
Well, it's IMO. Yeah, I cut.
Yeah.
I'm copping out of the pronunciation by saying IgG.
Good, because I don't know what it means or what it does. But so why do you need to monitor it?
Well, it basically. Sorry, I could be speaking completely. So take this with a pinch of salt, because I don't want this to go into the Joe Rogan podcast category. But I just say that so my understanding is with IgG, you have an IgG level, and if it drops below 7, IgG is basically the level of immunity. And if your IgG,
is this your lymphocytes?
Slightly different, I think, but it's you monitor those in the same way. But if your IgG drops below 7, your immunity is basically not there.
Okay. You're talking to a guy who's probably running about 3 or 4. It's coming back after alemtuzumab.
Check your latest
and it will get back
blood
up.
test. But
yeah, mine was really suppressed.
I'm quite positive about MS, but I realise that it's because my symptoms are just altered sensations and limites. Everyone always corrects me whenever I say limites.
That's how now limit. Yeah, I just call it le hermits because I'm a real pleb. Yeah.
That's why it's easy for me to be quite positive, because they are my symptoms, and I can just switch off my, those symptoms mentally.
Look,
but I'm aware.
Long may it continue.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm aware to sort of, especially talking to the MS community, to sort of rein in my positivity, because it's there are people out there who are going through much worse situation, and
for sure. Somebody said there was something on Twitter. It said, describe MS without saying anything about MS. And I just said, some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue. I don't live for around my MS, and I would loathe the time when it became that everything was done through that lens. And I know people like Mark are incredibly positive, but Mark is still Mark.
Yeah.
Mark would hate it if somebody was sort of like, oh, you poor person. It's like, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Some people get hit harder, some people get better. So you never know. But I always think I'm here where I am today, and I can't take back what happened half an hour ago, even if I want to desperately. That's past. So I've got to either operate with what I've got now, or frankly go bonkers. I'm worrying about what might have been.
Yeah, and I remember before I got officially diagnosed, but I knew it was coming. I remember that I had this moment. I was sitting on my daughter's bedroom floor, because I always put her to sleep in the evenings, and I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, well, at that period of time, you just constantly think. Well, I was constantly thinking about MS at that time.
That's all you think about when it comes into the sort of mental conversation.
Yeah, I was just constantly thinking about it
every 10 seconds.
But then I remember I had this thought in particular, and it was right. I'm laying here, sort of moping around, thinking about not being able to walk in the future, or not being able to do stuff in the future. And then I'm like, but I can do all of that right now at this moment. So like, what use is it if I'm not doing it now? If that makes sense. So get off your backside and just do it now. That's that's sort of what snapped me out of it.
I mean, it's a throwaway remark. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Or something drastic could happen to you, and it's night, and you think, I don't want to think I sort of carried away from life, and then I don't want it's like ironing. I use non-iron shirts because I thought the last thing I want to go through my head as I slowly die is I spent the last 2 hours of yesterday ironing. It's I know how to, but it's one of these.
It's better ways to go.
I don't like doing my ironing weeks in advance. Yeah, exactly. I think that would really hack me off if that was the last thing I thought about was, well, I got lots of ironing done.
I think even the rumour about how Elvis went is better than ironing. But yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you just hope he was having fun doing it. Anyway, Jason, look, this is supposed to be a short emergency podcast. Yeah. I mean, we could chat back and forth.
Most definitely.
For ages, but thanks for bringing it to my attention yesterday.
Yeah.
Everybody remember, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But it's not an L thing.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to sort of reinforce your point. It is really cool, and it is really positive, and there are great. Sorry, that's my daughter just walking in.
That's quite all right. You're allowed to have children.
There are great trials that are happening ongoing. There's the one. There's obviously Chariot, which you mentioned. There's another great one about remyelination at Cambridge as well. There was another one about
that's using clemastine.
Yeah.
I interviewed Trevor Stiles, the CEO of Navarone Biosciences in the US, because there's many different ways of coming at the remyelination thing. It very much concerns me is what does it mean? For us, because again, I think there's some people who think, oh, a remyelination drug, I'm just going to pop a couple of them and I'll spring out of my chair and I'll be doing a marathon. And again, don't want to rain on someone's parade. I just want people to keep it in the right sort of understanding of how much will this help me.
But the point is, though, there are lots of great people out there who are doing little different things, and eventually we're going to be able to put it all together and be in a even better position that we're in now. Because we're obviously we still
leaps and bounds, and then nothing for ages. Then there'll be this big jump, and then nothing for it. It's the way it goes.
We still obviously got a long way to go, but the last 20 years have been quite revolutionary. I mean, the position we're in now with the B cell depleters, with the immune reconstitutional therapies as well, stem cells.
Yeah,
it's good. It's a better position than what it's ever been. So,
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, Jason, I really appreciate it. Just for anyone who's managed to make it this far, A, kudos. B, I will put all the information that I can get my hands on into the description below, and let's catch up again soon and just keep pinging me the things, because it was my wife, I have to thank her. She went, do an emergency podcast. And I went, well, yeah, because I listen to the rest of politics, and they always do emergency podcasts when something major happens. So I thought, fine, this is the MS Guide's emergency podcast.
I think it was.
Shout out to Rory and Alistair.
Yeah,
all right,
definitely relevant.
Jason, you have a lovely evening. I know your daughter is desperate to speak to you.
Cheers. Take care.
All right.
Thank you. Cheers.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot.